I mean, it's things that you think, well, yeah, but a lot of times in relationship don't happen. Let the best thing that your partner hears about themselves come from you, not somebody else.
Welcome to Love Stories, a relationship podcast for successful women, where we talk about love, dating, relationships, and how great love stories are made. Whether you're searching for the one, you're madly in love, or simply curious about romantic relationships, this podcast is for you. I'm Charlene Byers. Each week, you'll hear from women, couples, and experts, and all the ins and outs on how to create your own love story. I am so passionate about this subject, and I'm so excited to share all the things that you can apply to create a beautiful love story of your own. Cheers to great love. Welcome back to Love Stories Podcast. I'm your host, Charlene Byers. Oh, I have something to share with you. Okay, I have never gone skiing before, and I actually just did that a few days ago, and I'm 51 years old. I actually wanted to start something new. I wanted to try something new that I've never tried before. But, oh my goodness, I made every excuse, everything you can think of, which is true. I was like, okay, I'm actually too old to ski. Who's going to start skiing for the first time at 51? And I hate being cold. So how is that going to work? I don't want to be in the snow if I don't like being cold. And I am truly deathly afraid of heights. So how is this going to work? But guess what? I did it. Yes, I did. And I am so happy that I did because I actually loved it and I want to try it again. And what I realized was that we really actually have a tendency, as humans to get in our own way. We find ourselves, or I did, making excuses to why we can't try something new. So I just wanted to say this. If you are wanting to try something new and you have also are making excuses and being hesitant and saying all the things, stop, go for it. Because what I know is that you're not going to regret it. You're going to be so happy that you tried it. Even if you end up not liking it or you end up loving it, at least you tried it. Okay? So I just wanted to give you that tip because I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back and, I'm going to try the skiing thing again. Let's talk about the tip of the week. While dating, I want you to maintain independence. While it's important to foster a connection, maintain your independence because continue pursuing your own interests and goals, as this can enhance your attractiveness and contribute to a balanced relationship. So if you find yourself really liking a guy, make sure you don't stop doing the things that you love. Make sure you're still filling your cup up and you feel great about yourself because that energy actually radiates out into the world and it will make all the difference in your dating life. Let me tell you about our next guest. Kathryn Gordon is a wife, mother, businesswoman, real estate investor, movie producer, best-selling author of Relationship Grit, and host of the Kathryn For Real podcast. Her story is woven with imperfections, struggles, and the joys of motherhood and marriage. Her book, Relationship Grit, was inspired through conversations at the grocery store in the produce department where friends would share how they were struggling in their marriage. She realized that many couples, no matter how long they were married, needed guidance in building strong, lasting communication and connection in their relationship. In her book, Kathryn and her husband share some of the difficult experience they went through and how they repaired their relationship so they can learn the tools to build a healthy marriage. What I loved about this conversation with Kathryn was it was extraordinary because Kathryn went from moving out at the age of 16 years old, dating bad boy after bad boy, traveling the world, to completely changing her life. Like she puts it, I traded tequila shots to green juice shots, and I found God. With no further ado, Kathryn. Well, hello. Hello, Miss Kathryn.
Hello,
How are you?
how are
I'm so
you?
excited. First of all, I just want to say I'm so excited that you're on here today, and I'm really looking forward to hearing about your story and your love journey. And I had this little pre-interview with you, obviously, prior to us talking right now. And I absolutely love your energy. I think you're already fantastic. So I can't wait to hear about your story today. And I just want to say this. As we were talking about earlier, this podcast is really representing women and their journey with, their careers, but really also the truth about like their love life and what you've been through and what you've gone through and what you feel about that. And so I would really love to start with, what was it like for you, Miss Kathryn, before you were married? Let's start there. Like, what was your life before you were married? Because you've been married for a while, Mama. So, and you look young. I think you're only 22. So, that's not, I don't know what time you started, hon, but.
Well, I was pretty wild.
Start there.
Yeah. Yeah. I was pretty wild, actually.
Were you? Nice.
Yeah, I definitely dated a lot of people, and I had a boyfriend that I actually moved in with him when I was 16.
No, get out of here.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy household life. I had alcoholic parents and ended up moving out. And yeah, he was a cocaine dealer, by the way. And so did that. And then I knew.
So hold on. Let's back this up for a second. Wait a minute. Hold on.
Yeah.
So you're 16 years old. Okay. I have a 16-year-old daughter. So, and I was 16 one time too. So I can't even imagine. So you're 16-year-old, but you're in a situation in your household that both of your parents were alcoholics?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was pretty bad. And so
it was pretty bad. So that was it a way? Okay. So was it basically like,
yeah,
okay,
it was just an event that happened.
How'd you get out of that, Kathryn?
Yeah. So, I always knew I wanted more, and I always felt like I was destined for more. And so I had said to my boyfriend that I was living with, like, I'm going to go to college. And he's like, you're not going to college. I'm like, no, I'm going to college. And so that, the minute he kind of told me I wasn't going to college, that was all I needed to hear. And that was my biggest focus, was like, I'm going to college. And I ended up getting into college. I, had to do the beginner program for sure. I started out at a community college and then got my grades up and transferred over to university. But during that time, I ended up leaving him, and I dated a professional wrestler. I don't know if you ever heard of the Horseman.
So now how old are you now? Like 17, 18? So you getting how long were you with the guy?
So that was like 20. And I would go back and forth with him. So I lived with him from like 16. I was almost 17. So we'll see 17 to 20. Then 21 is when, I kind of was like, okay, buddy. I was getting close to graduating from college, and, ended up,
So you were literally, oh my gosh, wait a minute, Kathryn, hold on. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I got to hear this. I got to hear this part. So you were literally like, okay, I'm leaving. I'm going to go move with my boyfriend. I'd say, wow, you're a firecracker. I love this. So you're like, I'm leaving. This hell's at home. I'm 16 years old. You go with your boyfriend. And was it overall, we don't have to get too much into that, but was it a toxic relationship, or was it just
incredible?
Not your guy?
Lots of drugs, lots of fighting. He
very toxic then.
He would beat the crap out of me. There was bad stuff. A lot of bad stuff happened. And yeah. Well, funny enough, not funny. As soon as I graduated from college, I took a job in Nashville, Tennessee. And it was a week out of college. I packed up my car and I drove 900 miles to Nashville. And I wanted to get away anyway. Like, I was in such a big party scene in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and, wanted to get away from him. So, this was my chance to start my life over. And, by then I was, kind of with him, but then dating the wrestler, it was always this kind of like chaotic thing. love triangles. And, but anyway, moved to Nashville. Yeah. But here's the thing. No matter where you go, there you are, because it didn't take long for me to find those same kind of people that had a lot of drugs, lots of partying. And, I kind of lived this double life because it was like, I didn't come from I came from very meager means. But I ended up like getting into this group with, I'm being flown on Lear jets and, lots of very high-end whining and high-end whining and dining. And so
what age is this now? Are we still in the 20s? Are you still like,
well, I mean, I was doing that. Yeah, no, even when I was in Virginia Beach, when me and my boyfriend, because we would like break up and get back together, but I was a bikini model back then. It's a whole story. I got a whole story. So in college, I would have my boyfriend who I was dating, again, on again, off again. And I would move back into his house and then I'd move back to my mom's. But I would make a list of all the competitions, the contests at each bar, right? So there was like a lady in red. And there was like a bikini contest. And there was this, and I'd make a list and I'd like pack a bag and I'd say, all right, let's go. Come on, Rob. And I would have him drive me to each of these things and I would compete. Some nights,
oh my God,
I'd win lots of money. Some nights, maybe not any. Sometimes, but I would like make money doing these contests.
What was your motivation? Was it because of the money?
Money.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in college. I was in college and, people where I came from, a lot of people didn't go to college. So, I mean, my parents weren't paying for my college. I mean, I had student loans and, so no, it was
so you were getting by. You were like, girl, I need to make money however I can. I'm in survival mode right now.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a lot of fun too.
Yeah, I'm sure you had a blast. I'm sure it wasn't so fun either.
Well, that's what ended up happening is I, again, no matter where you go, there you are, met the same kind of crowd in Nashville, started dating another professional wrestler, Magnum TA, who lived down in Atlanta. So I started driving down. I did at the time, right? So I moved down was going back and forth from Atlanta to Nashville. And I ended up saying, I'm moving down. So then I moved down to Atlanta. And that started like, again, because I went to rehab. I went to rehab in Nashville.
You were with other people doing the drugs,
Right. I went into my boss and I was like, I need help. And everybody was like, what? And I called my dad. I'm like, Dad, I need help. He's like, you're fine. I'm like, no, I think I need help. So I went off to some rehab. So I was going to clean my life up. Well, then I get down to Atlanta. And again, no matter where you go, there you are. Start doing the same old things. And
let me ask you something. I have a question. Something just came up. So you're down in Atlanta and you're noticing because basically you're having the same patterns and you're kind of thinking, I'm going to go somewhere else and things are going to change. But, they're not changing. They're meeting the same kind of people. So I would say then during that time frame, from obviously like 16 to I'm not sure what age. I mean, then relationships to you, what did they mean? Like, were you were you the type of woman that you ever like think about back then? Like, I do want to get married and have a family.
Yep.
Or were you in a totally different mind frame thinking, men, it's not going to work. What was going on with you during that time?
No, that's such a good question, Charlene, because the whole time I really just wanted love. Like I really wanted someone to love. And I always saw myself as somebody who was married and had children. Like I always wanted kids for as long as I can remember. I wanted kids. And, I just unfortunately I was not picking the right kinds of guys. And
but look at your background, Mama. You really didn't get to see. No, but that to me, that's what I want women to hear right now. A lot of these things that happen to us and a lot of the ways, like I always feel like, depending on how you grew up, right? And a lot of us grew up, like I call it a jungle. You grow up and, you're in these, ways with your family and it's toxic. I grew up in a very toxic, family too. And then you come out and you're like, you're clueless. You're like, no one's teaching relationships. No one's really, talking about all that kind of stuff. So I feel like we do the best we can. And so now I can see that. But deep down inside, you always truly longed for love and family.
Always,
Wow.
always,
Okay. So
always,
keep going from there.
always.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
And so, again, found another really toxic guy, whole story.
This guy you got your pattern, mama. You're getting your pattern with the toxic man.
Except now he's super, super wealthy, right? He's riding me around on his Harley and he's got a yacht and this amazing house. And, he has all the outside stuff, but he was definitely what we would classify now as a narcissist, but probably like even deeper than that. Like he had some serious issues. Yeah. And, of course, lots of cocaine, and he turned me on to ecstasy and, all this crazy stuff. And
what age were you around this time? I want to hear, what age?
Yeah, it was like 22, 23, 24. So I'm really grateful for that guy because, he kind of led me into such a rock bottom that it forced me to take a look at my life and go, I'm not doing this anymore. I need to work on myself. And I literally, through a couple things that had happened, ended up one morning, got
what
back
was it
to
for
my
you,
house.
Mama? What was it for you that you had I'm out of here. This is it.
Yeah, no. So been dealing with him and all his stuff. And then I was at his house one night. And again, he always had other women there. It was never like, a safe place, even though he tried to make it,
Yeah.
I mean,
but he always had his women. But you were the main one, supposedly, right? Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah, definitely not anything that I would ever tell anybody to be in a situation, my daughter, anybody. But so, this one night, it was like a big party at his house, lots of drugs and ecstasy. And I ended up getting in the car with two of the girls that were there. And she took us, we went down to the south side of Atlanta to go see some guys that were in town and, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, sure.
And there was just these chicks, these random girls?
Don't know who they were.
You don't even know. You don't even know who they were.
When you're like partying like that, and you're young, you do stuff.
Yeah, oh, yes.
And they left. Well, I didn't know where I was. I didn't have my purse. I didn't have anything. So I ended up having to try to get back to my house, which is in Brookhaven in Atlanta. It was like far from downtown. So I ended up getting back home. It was in the early hours. It was morning. And I literally just got into my house. I hit my knees and I just said, God, help me. Please help me. I need help.
Oh, I got goosebumps. Got some goosies on that.
And that was the day I turned my life around. Like I turned my life around. And I don't want to say like, oh my God, it was just like that. I mean, it took a lot of work on my part. I did a lot of therapy. I did a lot of prayer and meditation. I changed my people, places, and things. I did a major, and I ended up getting into this spiritual women's group that was the most amazing group of women that, like when all my friends were out at the bars on a Friday night, I'm going to her house. Yeah, I'm going to her house and we're doing like a meditation circle, like
how did you find
really
the group?
Changed my life.
How did you find this group?
I just like it was a God thing. I'm trying to think now to this day. I don't even know how I found this woman who became like an amazing, beautiful angel to me.
So that was the turn.
55 years old.
That was like
she was beautiful inside out, and so I worked on myself. And I worked on myself really hard for those few years. And that's when, by then I totally got it together. I'm like, got a great job, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm in Buckhead, Atlanta. I'm eating dinner at this restaurant. I come walking out of the restaurant and I walk past this bar that had just opened. And there's this guy standing in the bar doorway. He's got like big biceps and, collared shirt and He's like, hey, come on in. He's like, hey, come on in. We just opened. And I'm like, yeah, no. And he gets up close to me and he looks me in the face and he goes, you're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh my God.
Like,
He's
goodness.
a player, right? But how sweet.
Yeah.
So he's like, will you please come back? I'm having a party Friday. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'll be back. Of course, I had no intention of coming back because I don't go to bars anymore. No, I wasn't up into bars. You know, this is what I say. I traded tequila shots for green juice shots.
There you go. You're like, I do the green juice now.
Yeah. And so so then I fast forward. He said, well, will you come back? And I said, sure. So I didn't go back. Well, fast forward 2 weeks later, I'm at a fundraiser called the Best of Atlanta. And I'm standing there talking to some guy, eating my cheesecake, and out of the corner of my eye,
what happened?
I see that preppy guy with the big biceps like running towards me. And he's like, oh my God, you're here. I never thought I'd see you again. You didn't come back Friday. I've got to get your phone number. I cannot let you leave without getting your phone number.
Are you serious?
And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, okay, yeah. Give him my phone number and don't think anything of it. Oh my God, this guy called me and he called me and he called me. He kept calling me. And so finally one day I pick up the phone and we actually have like a really good conversation. I'm like, wow.
Well, hold up, Kathryn, let me ask you something. Hold on. I want to ask you something. Something came up. Okay. So what was it before with him? Because remember, so the guy came up to you, he was trying to, do the masculine thing. He comes up to you and he's like, you're beautiful. And you were like, oh, hell no, we're not doing this. So then you don't go see him. And then the guy comes to the second time and you're like, oh, wow, this guy's really into me. What was it the first initial time that you weren't open? Were you just not in that place in your life that you wanted anything from a man?
I wasn't open to him. No, I wasn't open to him either time. So a couple things there. First of all, he looked a lot younger than me. Okay, so let's just say that.
Is that what it was at first?
And I always dated older men with a lot of money. By then, that's what I did. I'll be honest. Like I was like, I like a certain kind of lifestyle. And he just was like this young preppy guy. And, honestly, if I hadn't done the work I had done on myself after he and I had the conversation, I never would have resonated with him. We were at a different frequency, right? Like if I was still in this low state, I would have never, even been interested in him. But I was, once we had that conversation and we actually that night on the phone when I ended up talking to him.
Were you attracted to him though? Were you attracted to him, Kathryn?
Not yet. Not yet. This is the whole thing. So you're not thinking
the guy's cute or anything. You're not physically, it's not your.
I mean, it was a good conversation. I mean, I liked his I didn't really notice, I kind of saw his biceps. That's a whole later story. But I mean, I noticed he had big biceps, but it wasn't something I was like, oh.
Got you. Yeah, you're just not really paying attention. You're like, whatever.
No, I really liked, when we had the conversation, I'm like, okay, this guy's a really smart guy. He's got a master's in teaching at Emory and went to Cornell University. He's an Ivy League graduate, got his friends together to buy this bar in Buckhead.
Okay.
So, he's an entrepreneur and thought he was great. And but again, I wasn't like, oh my God, I love this guy. But he's like, please go out with me. So I said, okay. So every time we were supposed to go out, I would cancel on him.
Mama!
So this happened every time. So by the third, it was the fourth time he called.
He goes, why are you canceling on him?
You know what? I just was like, didn't feel like it. And he goes, so finally the fourth time, I'm on the other line. Remember back in the days when you could click on?
Yeah.
And I'm on the other line with Sandy, who was my spiritual woman that the older
woman. Yeah.
And I'm like talking to her about something. This guy calls in. He's like, I'm coming to get you tonight. And I tried to cancel. And he goes, listen, you've canceled on me 3 times. If you cancel on me again, we're not going out.
Oh.
And I was like, oh. Got a little toot.
Oh,
so
I like this.
So I click over to my girlfriend, Sandy, and I'm like, you're not going to believe what this guy just said to me. And she goes, oh my God, you got to go out with him.
Mm-hmm.
So I went out with him that night. I didn't put my makeup on. I didn't do my hair. It was back in barrettes. I did not even make any effort. And it was just, we got together. It was okay. It was nothing great.
Okay.
So that weekend I go away on a girls' weekend, and I'm walking with my girls on the beach. I have like a list of guys I'm dating. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm
You're
like
dating. You're
going
single.
through, I'm still, by the way, still dating the wrestlers on and off.
Right. Oh,
And
you had
now
your
I'm,
little, you had
yeah,
your people. You had your
yeah.
guys.
So
Yeah.
I'm
You're
dating
single woman,
Lewis.
mama. Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was dating Lewis Levin, who was Michael Bolton's manager. I don't know if you remember Michael Bolton. And
I remember
so
Michael Bolton.
Yeah, so I was in
I'm
in this
older.
whole music scene. So, I'm going through the list. This guy wasn't even on the list. He wasn't even on the list. But for some reason, I got back that Sunday and I called him and I said I was in town, and he came over and we literally stayed up on the sofa all night long. No, we didn't have sex. We weren't having sex. We were talking about God and spirituality all night long.
Oh, wow.
All night long. And
all night long.
we've been together ever since. That's the guy I married. Now, I'd love to tell you that after that night, we got married and we lived happily ever after. That just not happened. That it did not happen. No. I mean, we went through hell. And again, I don't know how much of that you want to get into. It's all in my book, Relationship Grit. But, tell
everyone real quick about what's the name of the book real quick, since you mentioned it.
It's called Relationship Grit. It's a best-selling book on relationships, how to have a great relationship. I think the neatest thing about this book, to be honest, Charlene, is obviously, I hear from a lot of couples that are struggling and, need help, and they, read the book and it helps them get back together. But one of the coolest emails I've ever received was from this woman. Oh my God, I wonder if I have it. If not, I can pull it up. She said to me, she was 87 years old. Wow. And her husband, Jerry, was about to turn 90. And they were celebrating 65 years of marriage. And she said, I read your book, and I want you to know that I say your prayer every night, and that I serve Jerry and he serves me. And it was just like the prettiest, most beautiful. And I was like, I could get testimonies all day long, and I love all of them. But man, when you get a testimony that a couple that have been married for 65 years used my book and it improved their marriage, I'm like, I don't need to do another
that's some
thing.
juicy stuff.
That is a blessing. Yeah,
that's beautiful.
That's a blessing. And the thing is, if a lot of your listeners are women who are not in relationships right now,
that's pretty majority of our listeners. There's a lot of listeners that are not in relationships.
This book is for you, because I did some of my best relationship work when I wasn't in a relationship, right? All that time when I was working on myself. The principles in the book will absolutely help you. John and I both give 11 tips each at the end of the book.
So John's involved in that too.
So it's a back and forth. It's John's side, like I talk about what happened, and then he gives his, and it is
fantastic.
People love it. A lot of people get on audio just because it's he and I going back and forth.
Fantastic.
But it's about that, and it's things that you think, well, yeah, but a lot of times in relationship don't happen. Like let the best thing that your partner hears about themselves come from you, not somebody else. But how many times do you get in relationship, and once you're in the grind, and whether it's the kids or the work, you know what, you're always bitching at them, or bad mouthing them, and it's somebody else that gets the best of you. Try to turn that around.
That's so true, like in every way. Yep. So you find yourself then. So this is amazing. So you had not only your story before you got married, and then you meet this guy, and he wasn't going to give up on you, and he was like, "Girl, you're going to be my woman," and so you end up getting together. How long throughout the marriage until you guys knew and decided, you know what? We have something here. We're going to write this book. How many years in? So let me ask you another question. First question. You get married with him, and was the relationship in the beginning, were things cool, or were you guys already having the struggle? Or was it like, you guys got married and then things went good for a long, long time, and then things turned? Give me a little history there so the audience can hear,
That's a great question. That's a great question. And we talk about it in the book, actually.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
While we were headed for our marriage, like when we were engaged, we were already starting to have issues. And I wasn't real crazy about him. And I had even said to a girlfriend of mine, you know what? I'll marry him. I'll have my kids. And if it doesn't work out, I'll kick him to the curb. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, because I knew,
you had that kind of attitude with it.
I knew I wanted to have children, but remember, I did love him. That was we really connected. He was the sweetest man I had ever met, and he was the guy that if I ran out of perfume, he'd notice and go get it for me. 2 months into our dating, he ended up leasing a brand new Nissan Maxima. He let me drive it. He was that kind of man. Like you take he paid off my college loans.
Damn. So what, Kathryn?
What just was really sweet
for you? No, this is true. But what do you think it was at the time for you? Do you think like
I had never dated a guy that was so openly loving? I
feel like there was something beside you not trusting, right?
No. Well, I had always dated guys that were like lugheads. Let's face it. They were like these beefy, lughead, caveman
wrestlers,
type guys,
Mm-hmm.
So then I had this guy who
no offense against wrestlers.
I know. We love them.
There's some great wrestlers
but,
out there.
He had a real softness to him. But unfortunately what happens, and this happens so many times in relationships, is life happens. It always happens. And it's the stress of work. And it's the stress of financial obligations, like even way before kids, things happen. And that really can start to make a person, not act in their highest way, right? And that was definitely what happened to my husband, and knowing him now after all these years, like stress, he has to really work on himself, how he handles things. And so,
but at the time, Kathryn, let me ask you this before we go further. But at the time, when you guys were, falling for each other, you're in a place, you're like, he's a great guy, but I'm not sure, but I do want kids. And you're kind of back and forth. If I was able to ask him that question, did he have a totally different experience? Was he like,
no, we were both at that point.
Like, I'm figuring this out with you. And would he tell me that he was in that place, or was he like all in?
Okay. So what it was, and we talk about this in this book, because we both had we both didn't like each other, but we knew we were supposed to be together.
Really?
Does that make sense? Yep.
Wow.
It's the weirdest thing. Like I knew, like I'm fabulous. Like, well, we just gonna, and we were fighting, but it was like, this is what he says, like we didn't like each other, but we did still love each other.
You loved each other. Well, okay. You guys didn't like each other because you were having all these issues, but there was love there.
Exactly.
Okay. Yep. So you get married.
Yep. Get married. And oh my God, I didn't think I could get pregnant. I had all kinds of issues.
Right. Because you guys wanted kids.
We did, but I didn't expect to have him this quick. Like, boom. He ends up starting to run for city council. I was his campaign manager. There's a whole thing there. And, we were right in the middle of like starting our life together. And I ended up getting pregnant. I was like, oh my God.
How long were you married at this time?
6 months. Wait, May.
6. Oh, so you were like
October. Maybe 5 months. Yeah. Maybe 4 or 5 months. Yeah.
So you just got married. You're like, we just got married. Now we gotta have a baby.
And he walks in and he's like, and by the way, he was also in law school at this time. And he walks in, I'm like, we're pregnant. And he's like, I'm not ready. I'm like, honey, you better get ready.
Wait, it's coming.
Yeah. So there's a whole other thing in there. And again, I don't know how deep you want me to get with this, Charlene, but I ended up getting.
Mama, get as deep as you want. Say whatever you want to say.
I had my daughter and I got so sick that I almost died. So, and he was awful. My husband was a motherfucker. I'm just going to say it like it is.
During this time?
He was not nice to me.
What was going on with him, Mama? You can look back.
He was stressed. He was in law school. He had this, all of a sudden he went from this young guy and then all of a sudden to having a whole family, right? He's got a family.
To having a whole family. He wasn't prepared for this.
And I was asking him, like, I was so sick that I would say, please come home and watch Jade so I can go to the doctor. And then I'd go to the doctor and they'd run more tests and they'd be like, we can't find anything. Well, come to find out.
Oh, what happened?
I had breast implants that were filled with a black mold called Aspergillus nigus.
Ooh, I've never talked about that. I've never heard of this.
Yeah, if you Google my name and breast implants, some of my stories will come up. A lot of them actually, interestingly, have been scrubbed. Big pharma. So like I had, something in Glamour magazine. I was on the Montel Williams show, if you remember that, MTV. I've done documentaries. So yeah, back in 1998. So story
you were
is,
really sick.
I was so sick, I could barely take care of my baby. And
oh, mama.
And so I ended up, and you don't know me, but if you knew me, you'd know this is not like me. I ended up being so hopeless and he was awful to me that I decided I was going to take my own life. And back then, OxyContin, they were prescribing OxyContin like it was candy.
Were they really back then?
Oh
this
my
is
God.
What year is this?
It's 99.
99, okay.
So I had like 5 bottles of OxyContin. Every doctor I went to, like, yeah, you're postpartum. Oh, you have fibromyalgia. So remember,
they have no idea what's going on with you. So they're just giving you everything. So not only, let me slow this down for a second. This is big. So not only that you're like, okay, we're married, get the baby, and now I'm having the baby and I am feeling like literally I'm dying because you were dying. And not only that you're feeling like that, now you're dealing with the stress of your man and you're dealing with the stress of a baby, but not really knowing what's going on with you. And then you're probably getting addicted to these painkillers, right?
Well, no. I knew intuitively not to take them. I'd be dead. I have no doubt that if I knew by then, you remember I had quit drinking, quit doing drugs, quit doing everything.
That's right. You're clean. And, that's right. That's right.
And I just knew that was not what's going on with me. And if I started taking these drugs, I was done. So I never did. But I did end up reaching a point where I was hopeless. And I thought, I can't go on. And remember, I told you I had this spiritual group of women that I was still involved in.
You were? You still had your ladies?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Okay, cool.
And so I, I feel like I had a good connection to God. But anyway, I prayed that night and I'm like, God, please forgive me for what I'm going to do, but I can't go on. And in the morning after John went to school, I was going to take all the bottles of OxyContin, right? I was going to just do it. Well, I had a dream. Yep. I had a dream that night. And I'm telling you, Charlene, this voice was as loud as anything I've ever heard before. And it said, your implants are making you sick. And I woke up and I rolled over and I told my husband and I'm like, oh my God. And for the first time, it was like, he believed me. And he looked at me and he said, yeah, he goes, I believe you. He goes, I will. And we were poor. Like we didn't have any money at that point. He's like, I will second mortgage our home to get my wife back. So in that spiritual group, remember the spiritual group that I had with
the spiritual,
Sandy?
Yes.
One of the women in that group was a plastic surgeon. So I ended up not texting her back then. You didn't text. I ended up calling her and saying, hey, Susan, this is what's going on. Because they hadn't seen me. Like I had stopped coming.
Okay, yeah, because you're in your depression. You're sick.
Well, yeah, and I had the baby. And
the baby,
but, yeah. And she goes, it sounds like one of your implants is infected. Why don't you come in and we'll open you up and, we'll clean you out and put some back in. I'm like, let me just tell you something. When you open me up, you just clean me out and close me back up because I don't ever want to feel like this again. So anyway, I go in to see her. We do all the pre-workup. And she goes, now I can't get you in for another 3 weeks. And honestly, I knew I wasn't going to make it. Like I was that sick. I mean, my head.
Yeah, your body was like.
I couldn't. So come to find out, I had a systemic bacterial infection that was attacking my organs in my brain. And I had a systemic fungal infection from so I really was being attacked, and I wouldn't have made it. When she opened it. So anyway, she didn't know again what was going on.
Sure. I mean,
she didn't know. And so I started to leave, and I was literally, my head. And God bless John at this point. He's like, "But look at her; she's not going to make it." And she's like, "I don't have anything." We're walking.
So your husband
out of the office.
He's totally supporting you, right? Now he's like, he's like, "Okay, my lady this is something's really bad here." Okay,
yeah,
okay.
So I'm walking. I mean, he still wasn't a great husband, but he at least believed that. And so I'm walking out, And she comes running out. She goes, oh my God, someone just canceled. Can you be here at 7:30 tomorrow morning? And I'm like, yes. And so, you're supposed to do all this workup. I'm racing around very quickly. So I ended up getting, going in and getting the surgery. And can you believe that's when she opened me up and she was like, oh my God.
So she's never probably seen anything like this.
She's never seen black implants. She ended up getting her like DVD recorder. They recorded it. I have pictures of it. I still have one of the implants. It's black. And that was a big deal. As a matter of fact, she sent my other implant to get tested at the, obviously at a lab. The doctor, the researcher who tested my implant, Dr. Pierre Blaise, ended up actually calling me on the phone. He said, young lady, I needed to talk to you. He said, I needed to hear your voice. I have never spoken with anybody that had Aspergillus nigus living in their body and they were still living. You have hit the lottery.
Moly.
Yeah. He goes, you have won the lottery. So yeah, that was that. Yeah. And, again, like I said, I'd love to tell you that from that point on, everything was great.
But thank you for sharing that. And I just want to touch a little bit on that for a second. Not only just sharing that, like in generalization, like what causes that? Is that just like a fluke? Like what is it about
your
for women that have implants right now?
What I have found, and of course, all my friends, everybody has implants, right? Everybody has them. And I always tell people, well, first of all, don't worry. But know your body. I mean, know your body. I just interviewed a doctor on my podcast, Dr. Kevin Brenner, who removes. There's a lot of people explanting because women are just getting sick, very sick.
They're getting sick. Okay.
Now look, I have friends that have had implants, never had an issue, right? So
yeah,
I'm not
I've had girlfriends having 20
years.
30 years.
I'm not anti-implant at all. I am pro know your body.
Love it. I love it.
Know your body.
That makes
sense. To answer your question, how did it get in there? Your guess is as good as mine. That's what's so weird. Like
that's so weird. They have no idea.
I don't know. No, very scary. Yeah. If I had been in a car accident or in any way ruptured one of my implants, I would have died. There would have been
You would have died because it would have just...
the doctor said there was not an antibiotic or medicine in this world that would have saved your life.
Wow,
yep.
Mama.
Yeah.
Wow. So you go through this beyond major experience. How old was your daughter now?
Oh, 9 months old.
So she was baby.
Yeah. No,
she was baby. So then, how long did it take you to recuperate and start feeling normal again and get better? Was it years? Was it months? What happened after that?
So I got my implants out in June. And I actually, got pregnant again in August. I honestly, though,
Kathryn!
from a spiritual, I really believe it was a God thing. It was like, I really feel like in some way, the pregnancy kind of helped speed up my immune system to help me get better. I can't explain it. I don't know,
it's okay.
But I ended up having, and so people ask me all the time, how long did it take you to feel better? It took me probably a month before I started to feel like myself again, and then slowly. Now, look, there are some things like now I have a gluten allergy. I could sit there and say like, overall, my immune system is amazing. So thank you, God, for that. But, you wonder, you're like, well, maybe I wouldn't have got that if I didn't. But, overall, feeling great. Yeah, I mean, again, after I ended up getting pregnant with Cole,
and then you had the baby.
So then I had him. Yeah. So, but I mean, I can say probably started feeling like myself more about a month or two after the explant.
Okay, about in it. Okay, so now let's fast forward here. So now you're feeling a little, you get pregnant. What's going on with your man, Mama? So what's going on with your marriage? So we talked about that first question, like, did you guys have, this love affair and everything was great and then things got bad? Or was it kind of like on and off throughout the marriage? And you said yes. So now what's happening with the marriage in general? Because you have this, how you got pregnant, you found out that, obviously you get the implants out, you're starting to feel better. What's up with you two at this point? What's going on?
Yeah. We ended up packing it up and moving from Atlanta to Florida. And by the way, like my husband is like, he's written 28 books and has 15 bestsellers. So like he's an author and a speaker. Yeah.
What's your husband's name, Mama? What's his name?
His name's John Gordon. So he's written like The Energy Bus and all kinds of great books. So, so he was kind of starting on that. Yeah. And so, when we got down there, that's a whole other story. I don't know if you want to hear all that, but
it's okay. No, but I really want to hear, Kathryn, what I love about your story today.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that you're sharing this because I want women to hear, like, thank you for your authenticity. Thank you for your realness. You're awesome. I love this. This is what we want to hear because this is real life, babe. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
Let's give it to them how it really is. So what the listeners are listening to right now is a woman that has gone through a journey, and we all have our own journeys, right? We all go through stuff, and yours is like, wow.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to fast forward and I'm going to give you like because then it's still, we have another issue. So we're down in Florida. We've opened up this restaurant called Moe's Southwest Grill. You might have heard of Moe's before, but we had to like second mortgage our home again and, all this stuff. And we're not making any money. So we finally start making some money. And but then John kind of his little speaking and writing career takes off. But it was a very stressful time for us because I'm sitting there trying to do the books for the restaurant. I'm trying to do stuff before, the kids get off the bus. And then my husband literally, and he'd literally come home at the end of the day from the restaurant and literally ask me, like I could have done 50 things. He would ask me about that 51st thing that I didn't get done. And we were fighting.
You lost your mind?
Yeah.
Yeah, you lost your mind. You said, okay, lock me up. I'm going to jail.
Yep. So, again, it was like up and down, up and down. We were just in the grind. And then we ended up selling the restaurant. We ended up opening like 4 other ones, sold the restaurants. And then John speaking and writing took off. His books took off.
And what does John speak and write about?
Culture, positivity, mindset, yeah.
So he's starting all that. Like he's getting into that, learning. Okay,
well, the reason he is, by the way, is because he wrote The Energy Bus because I said, that's it. I'm done with you. I'm leaving. Like I've had enough. Yeah. No, he was miserable. He was awful to be around. And I just said, you know what? I am ready to be a single mother and I don't want you in my life. You make me miserable.
So things were not getting better.
No.
At the time.
So at first he was like, okay, fine. I was like, all right. And then he like begged me. He's like, please just take me back. I will work on myself. I will change. I said, you need to go on medication. He goes, I'm not going to go on medication. Just give me a chance to work on myself and let's see what happens. So I said, okay. Well,
what was his main?
He was just always in a bad mood and he was grumpy and he was down.
Why? Why, Kathryn? Why?
He says now, which I understand, he was under a lot of pressure, he had a lot of pressure to, and he said, the kids and we were getting in the way of his success. That's what he says. Now, mind you, he's a totally different man now. So he admits
everyone, let me say that, Kathryn, hold on. Let me just say this real quick. So today, Kathryn is telling about her, love journey, her story. And trust me, there's a good ending here, everyone. There is. She's in love. Yeah, he's amazing. She's just giving us like the truth of the journey.
This is the truth.
The truth of the journey and how things actually turned around. Okay, but at the time, so what you're saying to me is, and let's just talk about that for a second, like men and women, for real, we are completely different. Like just the way we process, just the way we think of things, the way we take on stress. And I can tell you from experience, and this, especially men, if men are dealing with that financial stress and, being the provider and trying to, move all the parts and figure it all out, what I've learned with them, they go like inwards and they just shut down. They're not like us women, and they express themselves and they talk. And, so I'm a big advocate on men and, and their journey and what they go through. So I can imagine, again, at the time,
You nailed it. You nailed it. Like, that is exactly what was happening with him.
Yes,
like it was a lot of pressure.
He don't have no skills. He's like, I don't have skills how to talk this through and figure this out. He's in survival too. Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And so, but he did start working on himself. And really, that's when he started reading about like positivity and meditation. And like, so he really started changing his mindset. And that is when all of a sudden he got like the download to write his book, The Energy Bus, which is, about this guy named George who's so negative, and, his wife's about to kick him out. Sound familiar? And it's a fable. And he gets a flat tire, and he asks his wife to take him to work, and she won't. So he has to take the bus. And it is on the bus that he meets the cast of characters that take him on the ride of his life, and they teach him the 11 rules for the ride of your life. So that's the book. It's really cool. Matter of fact, here's a really cool thing about this. He just released another book called The One Truth. It literally just hit the bestseller list 2 days ago. The Energy Bus, which is a book he wrote in 2007, was also on the bestseller list. So he had 2 books. The One Truth was number 2.
Hell yeah.
And Energy Bus was number 7.
Let's
cool
give him
is
a
that?
shout. Oh,
Isn't that cool?
That is
that
is way cool, girlfriend. Like, your man needs
Yeah.
a little shout out there. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
So
Tell me the
anyway.
names of the books. Say the names of the books again so everyone can hear. The 2 books.
Oh,
Say it one more time.
The 2 of them, I was going to say there's 28. I'm not going through them.
No, just the 2. Yeah,
the Energy Bus, and then The One Truth, which just came out last week. It's already hit the bestseller list.
Beautiful. Thank you.
It's phenomenal. You have anybody that's suffering with just depression or feeling lost or
Ladies,
no direction.
pick up the book. Yes.
It is good. It's a good book. So
That's
anyway,
awesome.
but
This is
so
the turn.
here we were.
This is the turn. Yeah.
Well, it's not really the turn yet.
Oh, goodness gracious. Let's hear it.
Get ready.
Okay. Get ready, Mama.
So now my kids are in middle school. My husband is now what we would call established speaker and author. So he's traveling all around the country. Yeah. By then, though, he was Jewish, and he had ended up finding Jesus. It was through this series of events that he had this spiritual experience. It was pretty amazing. And so on his own, I was born Irish Catholic, but it's not like we ever went to Mass.
Today. Goodness gracious, good. Yes.
But so then he starts really, learning about Jesus and starts, anyway. So I go to lunch with some girlfriends, and one of my girlfriends ends up telling me she's having an affair on her husband. The next girlfriend was a couple. We literally played tennis with them all the time, and they were like the model couple. They were always holding hands and kissy. We just weren't doing the PDA, right? I mean, whatever. But I hadn't been feeling really connected in our relationship. It wasn't a low point, meaning we weren't fighting, but I wasn't feeling connected. John was gone all the time.
I got you, Mama.
So,
yes.
Then when my girlfriend tells me that they're getting a divorce, I was like, what? So that kind of made me feel insecure. So I go home, John gets home, and we go for a walk on the beach. And I'm telling him oh my gosh, so-and-so's getting a divorce. And, and I just haven't been feeling connected to you. And this is so typical of my husband, just so you know, because he has no concept of when something is appropriate to say. He stops dead in his tracks, turns and looks at me and goes, I cheated on you when we first got married. What? This is 14. We're married 14 years by then.
You're like,
what?
What?
And he goes, I've just, it's been eating at me, and, I would just never do that now. And, ever since I've been really, reading the Bible, and I just keep feeling like it's something between. I just need to tell you. I'm like, why'd you have to fucking tell me?
Right. Why? It's so long ago.
But he just felt like he needed to, it was the one thing that was in between us. Well, then I was going to leave him. Okay, buddy. So
Fast forward, what did that do for you? You were like, no.
I went into a major midlife crisis, like major. I started flying all over the country, getting like facial. I didn't do plastic surgery, but like lasers. And I was like done with him. I was leaving him.
You were leaving?
And I was leaving. And then, but he ended up being on a plane, when he was traveling, he sat next to this man. He ended up pouring his heart out and telling this man, like, this is what I did. And then the man was like, you know what? Something very similar happened to me in my own relationship. I suggest you come up with a prayer that you can say together. And he ended up coming up with a prayer. And he said this prayer every single night. Even if he was traveling, we would call, the kids would hold the phone, he would say the prayer. I would never say the prayer with him. I was so upset, still trying to figure out how I was going to get out of this marriage. I tried to cheat on him. It didn't work. There's a whole thing there.
You were like, I'm done, but I can't go.
I was just so done. And funny enough, well, you want to hear what the prayer is?
Yeah, I want to hear the prayer.
You want to know the prayer? Because we still say the prayer every night.
Let's hear it.
God, we invite you into our marriage and family to love us, to heal us, to unite us, to strengthen us so we can grow strong together and serve you together. And then we added this part, and raise children that glorify and honor you. Amen.
Oh my gosh.
And so he would say this prayer. I would not say it. If he was home, he would try to reach for my hand. I'd pull it away. Well, one night, and I started to memorize it. I'd say it in my head, but I wasn't about to give it
I'm going to say it to you. Yeah, you're like,
no.
Yeah.
And then one night I was laying in bed and he started, and I actually reached over and I grabbed his hand and I said the prayer with him. And that was the night that I decided to forgive him. And that was the beginning of our relationship and as it is now. Yeah. We ended up having doing a covenant together, and just we brought God into our relationship. And here's the thing, that is a part of my acronym. It's the G. So the G is for God. Bring God into your relationship. And I know that is a loaded subject for a lot of people. I get it.
Kathryn,
trust me.
Can I just say something right now? So you and I just met today, and I'm getting to hear this amazing story. Such an amazing journey that you have been through. And the pure fact that now we're coming to the part that you're telling me that God has been, the catalyst, right? To the major shift in your lives.
Yep.
Okay. That was me, babe. That's me and my husband.
Aww.
And so we are such alignment right now, and I'm getting emotional because I think it's so important to talk about that. And again, Kathryn, why? I'm going to have you on again, Mama, because this is wow. And I mean, we already been talking for like 50 minutes, and I'm fascinated about your story. Like I'm right here. Like I'll stay on with you for hours because this is fascinating. But what I love that you're saying right now is I am also, and I didn't have this prior. Remember I told you it's not about me today. I want to hear your story. But I was married with my ex-husband for 23 years, and I left him. And we didn't have God in our life. And so I'm such a believer in, marriages. You have to have something to connect you with and have faith, because then you're like, you almost, if you don't have that, you're almost trying to be God yourself. And there's no, right. You're like, you don't have any limitations. You got to have, there's a way to have guidance, and there's a way. And I just truly believe that with all my heart, because I've been through that experience just like you. Yep. So thank you, Kathryn. Seriously, thank you for bringing this up. And yes, if someone has whatever they have about it, listen, I'm telling you from the bottom of my heart, and just listening to Kathryn's story today, it has changed my life too, and has allowed me and my marriage now to have, a deeper connection, a deeper understanding.
Yes.
And so stay with that for a second, Kathryn. And I'm sorry I'm keeping you on so long, but
you're fine. I was going to say, for me to go through the RIT, we'd be on for another hour probably. But read the book, really. But I think the G is the most important part. So I got to tell you an interesting thing here. It never fails. So I have to admit that I have almost made apologies because, there are different groups of people that you speak to, and I, speak to different, organizations and blah, blah, that, sometimes I've been guilty of almost like making an excuse for the G part. Not like that, but just saying like, well, it's okay if you don't. Do you know what? I'll never do that again. I'll tell you why. Recently, we were in Malibu, and you know Poison. Do you know who Bret Michaels is? Poison singer. Yeah. So we were at this party. Bret was there. We're all standing around talking, and they want to know. It was just all these different people. So clearly, they weren't like a Christian group of people, but they wanted to know about my book. And so I started telling them. And of course, I started out with the G. I went through the GRIT. And, with the G, I'm like, I know we're, this can be loaded and, but, even 12-step programs have a higher, I was kind of explaining my G, because by the way, did you know 99% of couples that pray together stay together?
Hallelujah.
It's the truth.
It's the truth, Kathryn.
Here's what's interesting.
It's the truth.
Here's what's interesting. There was no difference. This is the sad part, but it is true. There's no difference in couples who stay together and divorce that actually attend church together. So it's the praying. It's the ongoing prayer.
Yes, the connection.
So anyway, but I just want to share this with you.
Higher. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So I just want to share this with you, and then we'll wrap this up. But with the G,
I don't want you to go. I don't want you to
go. I know. But do you know?
Tell me. Share that.
So many people walked up to me at that party after I talked about my the GRIT. And they were like, I got to tell you what my favorite part was. It was the G. Like me and my husband are really trying to figure, like people were in all different types of places spiritually, right? Like some people were Christian, some were Jewish in synagogue. Some people weren't.
Everyone has their own
practicing at all. And, or maybe the wife was practicing. And every single time I give this, the GRIT acronym, that is the number one thing people will come up and say to me. I love that you brought up God, because I used to make an excuse for it. And I thought, shame on me, God. But I did, and I don't anymore. Now I'm like, what?
That's what you believe, and that's what that's who you are. That is what.
Well, listen how beautiful
it saved your marriage, babe.
It did.
Come on,
it did.
Look at that.
I just don't want what I didn't. My reasoning, just so you know, I didn't want people to not get the whole message in this book, because I'm telling you, this framework you can use it for friendships. You can use it for coworkers. I mean, you could use it for any relationship.
I'm getting off of this call right now, and I'm getting the book.
Get the book.
Yeah.
So anyway, but that's it. But you know what? We got to wrap this up because I got to go too. I've got into the podcast. But thank you so much for having me on.
Listen, thank you. Listen, I want to just tell you, like, whoever is hearing this today and they're listening to this amazing story, first of all, honestly, to get more, I'll bring her back on. I promise. We're not going anywhere. This show is just getting started, and it's juicy. But get the book, because there is so much here. And let's end it with this, Kathryn, okay? Tell us now overall, how is your marriage with him, and how is life with him? And what would you tell people listening to this right now? What would be your tip, or, whatever you want to say to let women know, listen, there's hope here. Things can turn around. It's not everything is doomsday, all that. Like, give me whatever you want to say, that it's all for you right now. Let's hear it.
Yeah, no, just that. Like, I'm just telling you, if we can still stay together, and I just gave you a couple things that happened. There are a lot.
Oh, baby, I know you have a whole more in there. Of course you do. Yes.
Yeah, if we can stay together and have the marriage that we do today, anybody can. Anybody can. Beautiful. It just takes grit. It just takes grit, the GRIT. God, resolve, invest. You have to bring God into your relationship. Resolve to work things out. Resolve to stick together. The grass isn't always greener.
It's not. And you got to choose to stay together. You got to choose to love each other.
Water it. Yep. Yes. It's greener where you water it. Invest in your relationship. Don't be a consumer. Take. Be an investor. There's a whole thing there. And then the T is together. You have to do it together, or I say team, meaning you have to remember you're on the same team. You're not on separate teams, right? Right. And that's where it comes in that I say, that's why you want to compliment your partner. Let them hear the best. I would say flirt. There's a whole thing. I've got tips in there, but I got to go. Thank you so much.
Well,
thank you for having me on.
Everyone, follow Kathryn, please.
Relationship.
Follow Kathryn.
Yep. I'm on.
Let's get
you
the
can go.
book.
Oh, I have a couple different really cool free downloads.
Tell us.
If you go to my website, it's kathrynforreal.com, and at the top it's downloads. And I've got a gratitude journal that's great. I've got 7 little sacrifices for a great marriage. I've got how to fight less. So I've got some good things there. Yeah. And then my book, Relationship Grit. And you can find me on Instagram at Kathryn Gordon.
Oh, we're following you, babe. That's it. Thank you so
Charlene.
much. Thank you, Kathryn. This has been amazing. You are just, oh, wow. What an inspiration. What a beautiful story. And thank you so much. Seriously, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for sharing your authenticity today and being so raw and real. Oh, so juicy, girlfriend. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Have a good one. That's a wrap. Wow. What an incredible story and testimony Kathryn shared, and how her and her husband were able to save their marriage through finding God. So beautiful. If you're loving this podcast and these incredible conversations, please hit the subscribe button and leave a 5-star review. Don't miss an episode, because each week I'll be bringing on guests and experts who will share their knowledge about love, dating, and relationships so you can apply it into your own life. I'll see you next week. And until then, cheers to great love.